Hello everybody, and I'm sure you're all pretty sick of listening, hearing, seeing all about this mini, but I've prepared a little bit of a speech. I won't go on about it too much. A little bit of a motivational starter to this talk I was going to give. But if you can see, I've got a fiver sitting in my notes here. Richard, who's sitting next to me, says, "You know you've made it when you use a fiver as your bookmark." Well, that's not the case. What actually happened was, and this ties in with my opening words of this little talk I'm going to give, when I pulled the mini up outside around about 10 a.m. this morning, the press had been again, which was great for them to just take some final shots of the mini. A random chap, rather gruff Scotsman, walked up to me as I got out of the car, and he said, "What's going on here?" Excuse the accent, but he said, "What's going on here?" I said, "Well," he said, "I recognise the mini." And before I got a chance to say anything, he just said, "You're doing a brilliant job." And he patted me on the back, and he pulled a fiver out of his pocket, and he said, "Put that into the pot." So that type of thing we found was happening all along the journey, whether it was in Britain, whether it was in France, whether it was in Italy. Sarah, can I give that to you for your lovely words before as well? Can I just give you that now? Written across. So, my opening words were, nobody can help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. And I just saw that happen at 10 o'clock this morning. So nobody can help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. So I've seen that in action once again today. But I guess it was that motivational kind of phrase, if you like, that really did inspire myself and Angus Grant, it's not his days in London, I'm afraid, but he was my co-driver. He's the managing director of Carlisle Brass. That was the phrase that just spurred us on to try and set a goal of raising £10,000 for local charities, so we could split it between the 3 local charities. All came about September 2018. Angus and myself were on a business trip to Italy visiting some suppliers. We both said what a fantastic place Italy is, blah blah blah. I told him about an organised Italian job trip that occurs every September, where many people drive minis. You can go in any kind of car you want, but to visit all of the scene locations of the original film back in 1969. Weirdly enough, I had a rotting old Mini Cooper, 25-year-old Mini Cooper, sitting in my garage, and it'd been sitting there for about 4 years from a party that I'd been at, and after too many gin and tonics, I'd agreed to buy this thing off a friend of a friend. He turned up with it the next morning. I had a cracking hangover, and I just said, yes, I'd forgotten I'd done that. Anyway, I bought it. It sat in my garage for 4 years doing nothing. So Gus and I, again, fueled with a few gin and tonics on the plane, we said, well, we love Italy, we love minis, why don't we try and do something for charity where we can set a goal of raising £5,000? And either he or I said, well, great, but why don't we double that? Why don't we try and reach £10,000 for charity? So, got off the plane, we shook hands on it, we said, right, we've got a year, exactly a year to do this, to execute it. So there was a real sense of urgency, if you like, because obviously we both worked full time. We took it to a local body shop. They were going to do all the work for nothing, so we had to go down there with our overalls on and start. I've learned all kinds of things about how you restore cars and put them back together again. The more we got into it, the more rotten we found it was, so it ended up with a full front end. And anyway, I won't go into it because it could make a grown man cry, but there was a real sense of urgency. But the fact of the matter is, we actually did raise just over £10,000 to split between CFM Cash for Kids, Eden Valley Hospice, and Carlisle Youth Zone. So I was delighted with that, really. But what we did was we put the word out on social media initially. The Cumberland newspaper got right behind the story and helped us to spread the word too. And Angus and I were overwhelmed really with the amount of people, many of which are in this room right now, who came to us willingly to say, well, I'll get involved, I'll sponsor you. Here's £250, here's £500. some gave £1,000, and it was just like, whoa, this is really starting to snowball. So we're delighted with that, and I'd just like to say a massive thank you to everybody who got involved. You just have to look at the logos on the Mini to see who sponsored us, along with many other people too, who just, on the Just Giving page, just gave out of their hearts, just like that gentleman did as he walked past at 10 o'clock this morning, which I just thought was absolutely tremendous. So thank you so much to everybody who did support us. We couldn't have done it without you. So nobody can help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. So maybe we can all just take something away from that at this, especially this time of year, I suppose. But I mentioned before, I won't go on about the Mini much more, because if you want to come and speak to me afterwards to find out a bit more about it, I'll gladly tell you about the adventures. But I mentioned before about having to have a sense of urgency. And I just thought, because this meeting is based on and around transport and industry, let's move away from the Italian job for a moment. I thought I'd share some words from a chap called Joseph Bamford. Some of you might know who he is, and most of you probably won't. But these words kind of inspired Angus and myself as well, and kept us going. Because Joseph Bamford was actually the founder of the JCB company. You know, the big yellow earth-moving equipment people. Joseph was once asked what it took to succeed. Well, Joseph thought for a moment, and he said it was the same thing that it took to get started. He said it was a sense of urgency about getting things done. And you can Google this, but we've actually got it up in our office. It's framed for everybody to see. But he went on to say that the people who make things move in this world share that same sense of urgency. The world, he said, is full of very competent people who honestly do intend to do things tomorrow, or as soon as they can get around to it. But, he said, those who are blessed with a sense of getting started now, or possessing that sense of urgency, these are the ones that will really succeed in this life and make things happen. So again, as I've said, Angus and I were really inspired by those words, because it'd been a fairly motivational thing when we went on this original trip. He was talking about some of his favourite quotes and motivational speakers, etc. So I don't know, I just thought maybe you can take something away from Joseph Bamford's words. Maybe you can use it in your own life, either later on when you go back to work, later this week, or whenever. But as I said, if you want any more details on the trip, it's an annual trip. You don't have to be using a Mini. It's a fabulous trip which saw us drive right from, get us down to Dover to Dunkirk, drive right through France. It was about a 9-day trip, I think, right over the top of the Alps, up the St. Bernard's Pass, touch into Switzerland, drive right down the other side. And we spent 3 nights in Turin, where most of the film locations were actually filmed, and it was fascinating to see it. So I'm a bit of a film buff, but come and see me later, and I'll give you the details if you fancy going on that. So that's it. After the press photographer's been today, well, he already has been today, you might see us again in the newspaper, and then the Mini is going to go and sit in our showroom at More Handles, and you'll never hear of the Italian job again, I promise. Now,